Good morning, BNI millionaires and guests. Again, Jeff, thank you for that introduction. That was great. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about are basically three things. I'm going to talk about a little bit about my background. I'm going to discuss the process that my agency follows, and then I'm also going to talk about my ideal client and how you can refer business to me. So I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and my family migrated to the United States when I was about 3 months old. We moved to New York, and actually specifically Brooklyn. About 6 years later, my parents packed up their 6 children, which I'm the second oldest of 6, and drove us down to Broward County. And that's where I spent my formidable years. It's where I finished elementary, middle, high school. I went to Cooper City High School. Some other notable points about my background is I went to the University of Florida, so I'm a proud Gator, but I have a lot of love for the Seminoles when they're not playing the Gators. This is my beautiful wife, Christina, and these are our 3 beautiful children. Vincent, who's age 5, the middle one is Anderson, who's 1, and our daughter Charlie, who is 2, and we spell her name Charli, so. An important day in my life was June 18th, 2004, and that was the date that I became a U.S. citizen. It was one of the most proud moments of my life. I have the unique perspective of not being born in this country and spending time and frequenting a place that does not have the same opportunities and people don't have the same life experiences as are possible in the United States of America. So that was a very big date in my life. In terms of my professional background, I'm a licensed insurance agent for 12 years. For the last 8 years, I've specialized in commercial property and casualty insurance. And I hold a number of designations, but the one that's most applicable to what I do here at BNI is I have what they call a chartered property and casualty underwriting designation. And what that means, because everybody's got designations, frankly, nobody really cares. But what that means is it's very easy to get an insurance license in the state of Florida. Some agents feel it's too easy. There's not a lot of barriers to entry for people who are just trying it out. So the reason why I took this additional step was because it does separate me from the pack of my competitors. It's a pretty extensive process, and it gets into some of the fine details of the industry and the practice. So, what we do. I read a lot of business books, and business books of late, they encourage you to describe your business in a way that I feel is very difficult for people to understand. I'm kind of a to-the-point kind of guy. Old school, if you want to call it that. So I have 2 descriptions of my business. One is an old school description, and one is a new school description. So I have one for each. So the old school description of what I do is we sell and service commercial insurance policies to business owners, and we help reduce claims by doing tailored safety meetings. So the new way that I would describe my business would be we provide peace of mind to our clients through risk management and risk transfer solutions. So whichever you like, there's a description for you. Here's our process. Once I have the opportunity to work with a client, we begin with a policy audit. I move into gathering the information, then I analyze the information that I gather. I make a proposal. We acquire the account. We set up a schedule. We execute the schedule. And then through that process, I hope to have converted that person from someone who didn't know me or didn't know me well into someone who likes me, respects me, trusts me, and now is going to refer other business to me. And then I start the whole process over again with the new person. There are going to be 3 parts of the process that I want to talk about because I feel that's what separates myself from my competition. The 3 parts are the policy audit, the setting the schedule, and the executing the schedule. Policy audit. So again, tying to that new school, old school theme, you have Columbo, and then you also have Grisham from CSI. Okay. So when I do a policy audit, I get the policies from the potential client, and I sit down, sometimes for an hour or 2 or 3 at their office, depending on how significant the size of the policy is. If they trust me enough to make copies or to take their actual policy home, which they do many times, I'll take it back to my office and I'll sit down and I'll tear through it. A lot of times I'm going through it line by line. What I'm looking for is a number of things, and you can see what's up there, and maybe I'll run through it real quick, but I'll give you a quick example. I had a large auto dealer that I was working on, and they had an endorsement in their policy that said, if you don't have a sprinkler system, you do not have coverage for fire. That is huge. They had a huge property line, probably $15 million. They had no idea that this was in their policy. I don't fault business owners for this. I'm a business owner. You guys are business owners. You're responsible for so much, and you can't really be an expert at everything. You rely on the professionals you work with to make sure they're taking care of you. When I brought this to the business owner's attention, he was furious. A lot of times people let me in thinking, I'm not going to do anything with this guy, but I'm going to give him a shot. A lot of times that's famous last words in a good way, because you give me an in, and I'm probably going to write your business. And when he saw that, he immediately in his mind made the decision that he was going to fire his agent. And a month or 2 later, I brought them on as a client. And that is one example of many. Some of the things that I look for when I am doing a policy audit is I verify and check all the entities that they do business in. They might be Acme Inc., but they also have Acme LLC. That's not on their insurance policy. That's a huge issue. And so I cross-reference their insurance policy with what's on SunBiz. Sometimes even when I'm gathering information from a client, they forget, I forgot about that entity. So you got to be real thorough when you're doing this. I check locations. I check the limits of insurance. I check the coverages, the exclusions, the policy provisions, the warranties. I analyze how their policies should work together, and I let them know if they actually do work together or if there are gaps or issues between how their policies are supposed to work together. Another thing that separates myself from the way that other agents do business, and a common frustration that people in the business insurance, buyers of business insurance, one of the complaints that they have is that they buy a policy, they never see the person again. So a lot of times when they see me, they say, okay, I'm going to do business with you, and I'll give you a shot. But even if I give you a shot and I give you a business, I'll probably never see you again. Whether it's said or unsaid, a lot of times they feel that because of experiences that they've had. But in my being out in the world and frequenting other business, specifically in the medical practice, I got a great idea. When I go to a doctor's appointment, a medical appointment, they usually set the schedule of what's going to happen for the year. They'll set an appointment 6, 8, 9 months in advance, which I thought, I should do that. And so that's what we did. That's what we do. We set all the meetings. When we bring a client on, that next week or week after, we will set a schedule for the entire year, so you're going to see me. And the types of meetings that we're going to schedule are a risk review, where we basically sit down with the business owner, we talk about what their issues and concerns are, and where they could potentially have claims, and then we set up meetings, safety meetings with their employees to address those areas. We also do an annual review about 120 days before the policy expires, going through the policy, making sure if the business has changed, the policy is keeping pace with it. And then I also do my renewals face-to-face. I don't email, fax, or regular mail you your renewal. I actually personally come there, deliver it to my client, and we go through it one more time. My ideal client is really about a mind frame. About 50% of what I consider an ideal client has to do with how they perceive insurance, and are they going to think of me as a professional consultant to their business. If they think of me that way, then chances are they could be an ideal client. Some of the visuals, just to kind of do jog your mind a little bit. If you know anyone that drives a van that looks like this, or their employees drive a van that looks like that, that is probably someone who would be a good introduction to me, as well as anyone who has commercial property, equipment, printing equipment, CNC machines, anyone who's got these types of specialized trucks. Those are all things that companies that I specialize in addition to franchised auto dealers. I've insured about 80% of those different types of dealers that you see there. How to refer to me. A great question to ask someone you think might be a good fit for me is, the last time your agent came and did a safety meeting, how did it go? And they're going to tell you, my agent doesn't do safety meetings, which is a great in for me. Or they'll say, I love my agent, I see him every month, and he did the last safety meeting two months ago. And that's still a potential opening for me, but that first answer is definitely a sign to pass them on. And then lastly, to close this out, was another question would be, when was the last time you got a second opinion on your insurance? And regardless of how they answer that, that's another potential in for me. Again, Leighton Campbell, First Allegiant Insurance, and our business is your business.